In a vast forest where tall pines touched the sky, there lived a strong wolf and a gentle deer. This was a place of ancient secrets and silent whispers. The trees stood like sentinels, watching over the lives that moved within their shadows. It was a world of survival, balance, and profound beauty. The wolf was feared by many. He was a master of his domain, ruling through strength and a relentless determination that never wavered. His howl echoed through the trees at night, a sound that spoke of hunger, pride, and the untamed spirit of the wilderness. His sharp eyes missed nothing. Every movement, every scent, every sound was analyzed by a mind tuned for the hunt. He survived through instinct and power. He believed that only the strong deserved to thrive, and that weakness was a choice. Every day was a test of endurance. For the wolf, life was a battle to be won, a challenge to be conquered by force. The deer, on the other hand, lived quietly among the meadow grasses. Her world was one of light, peace, and careful observation. She moved with a grace that seemed almost magical, her ears twitching at the slightest whisper of the wind or the snap of a twig. She survived not by strength, but by awareness and swiftness. She knew the language of the forest in a way the wolf did not. Where the wolf trusted his power, the deer trusted her sensitivity. She felt the vibrations of the earth and the changes in the air. Two lives, two philosophies, moving through the same forest. One sought to control, while the other sought to understand. Neither realized how much they had to learn from the other, but the forest was about to provide a lesson neither would ever forget. One winter, the forest grew harsh. The first frost came silently, turning the green world into a kingdom of silver and gray. The air turned sharp and cold. The birds grew silent, and the small animals retreated to their burrows, sensing the coming hardship. Then the snow came. It fell for days, burying the paths and hiding the food beneath a thick, unyielding white layer. The forest was transformed. What was once familiar became a dangerous labyrinth of ice and shadow. Survival was now the only goal. The wolf grew thin from hunger. His usual prey had vanished, and the deep snow made every hunt a desperate struggle against exhaustion. His frustration grew with each passing day. Strength was not enough to find food when the world was buried in ice. His power was failing him. The deer, however, continued to find hidden patches of grass. She knew where the wind blew the snow thin and where the warmth of the earth stayed longest. She didn't waste her energy in a panic. She moved slowly, saving her strength for when it was truly needed. Her awareness was her life. One cold morning, he spotted the deer near a frozen stream. She was a vision of life in the middle of a world that seemed to be dying. The wolf prepared to chase her, gathering all his remaining strength for one last effort. He saw her not as a fellow creature, but as his only hope for survival. But the forest had other plans. Beneath the soft snow lay a layer of solid ice, invisible to the wolf's desperate eyes. Before he could move, he slipped. He tumbled down a small slope, his power useless against the unforgiving ice. He landed with a heavy thud. He had injured his leg. The pain was sharp, and for the first time in his life, the wolf felt a fear that strength could not overcome. He was trapped, alone in the winter cold. His power had failed him, and his future seemed as dark as the winter clouds above. The deer heard the noise. She ran at first, her instinct for survival taking control, but then she paused and looked back. From a distance, she saw the wolf struggling to stand. She saw the pain in his eyes and the vulnerability in his posture. She didn't leave him. She could have disappeared into the trees and left him to his fate. But something in her heart told her to stay aware, not just of danger, but of a chance for understanding. Carefully keeping her distance, she called out. Her voice was steady and clear, carrying across the silent, snowy field. "Strength alone cannot conquer winter," she said. The wolf growled softly. "And gentleness alone cannot survive it," he replied. The deer replied, "True, but wisdom lies in knowing when to fight and when to endure. Strength is only half the journey." Days passed. The wolf could not hunt properly. He was forced to stay in his cave, watching the winter world through a new lens of pain and stillness. The deer continued to find food. She was a constant presence in the meadow, a symbol of a different kind of strength that the wolf was now witnessing. The wolf watched from afar and began to learn. He noticed how she studied the land before moving, how she felt the wind, and how she stayed calm. he began to understand that her sensitivity was not a weakness, but a profound form of power that allowed her to live with the forest, not against it. Instead of chasing blindly, he started to observe more carefully. He chose his steps wisely, avoiding the ice and following the paths the deer had made. He waited for the right moment instead of wasting his strength on impossible pursuits. He was learning the art of endurance. By the time his leg healed, winter had not defeated him. He had adapted. He was still a wolf, but he was a wolf who now understood the value of patience. He and the deer lived in the same meadow throughout the winter. There was a silent agreement between them, a shared understanding of survival. When spring finally arrived, the forests bloomed again. The ice melted and the green world returned with a vibrant energy that filled the air. The trees seemed to breathe again, and the forest was alive with the sounds of returning birds and the hum of insects. The winter trial was over. The wolf and the deer crossed paths once more in the meadow. There was no chase this time, no fear and no aggression, just a quiet understanding. The wolf had learned patience, the deer had learned courage. They had both grown through their shared experience of the winter's hardship. They remained who they were, predator and prey, but they both carried a deeper truth within them that changed how they lived in the forest. Power without patience leads to exhaustion. Gentleness without courage leads to fear. To truly survive, one must find the balance between both. But when strength learns wisdom and gentleness finds bravery, survival becomes growth. The forest is a teacher to those who choose to listen. Sometimes the greatest lesson comes not from defeating another, but from observing them. To rise and to stay grounded, that is the path of wisdom.